Not even wearing my overalls. Hello. Hey. All right. I think we are, as they say, live and broadcasting. I'm never entirely sure until people start showing up over there. Oh, hold on. So, okay, I'm dealing with the. Hold on a second. I'm dealing with the technical assistance here. So even if you don't type in anything in all the fields, it won't let you cut. No, but I have it working now on a different version of my channel. All right. They're trying to help me. They're just a day late and $1 short. Hey, it must be working because there's a message from Josh. Hey Josh, appreciate it. All right, so here's what's going on real quick. And there's Gregor Lawrence. Good. Glad to have you. What's going on right quick, John, is in order to be able to do our live show last weekend from Auburn, I had to create a brand channel on YouTube. All right, immediately you're having to create something on YouTube. It's all going kerflooey because YouTube has the most complicated system ever and the worst instructions, and it's just YouTube is like if you took all the instructions for how to like work your refrigerator and set it up, turned it into a jigsaw puzzle, shook it up in a box and threw it on the living room floor and said, there's your instructions. Have at it. That's what dealing with YouTube is like. Seriously. And so in order to have our live show, I had to create a brand channel, which like linked my channel, the A Wishbone channel and other stuff, and then provide that to Elvis, to Auburn Elvis. But somehow, and that way he could, access the account without being able to get into my entire Google account. The idea is you want to let people be able to access your video account without having to give them all of your email, your everything. Right. Okay. So that's a good idea in theory. The problem is in practice, it's insane because now there's 3 separate AU Wishbone channels on YouTube. And I was trying the one that said it was the right one and that one wasn't working. And then I tried the other one and it said, you have to set this one up. And it says, oh, in 24 hours, you can stream. So finally, I tried the third one, and here we are. And meanwhile, customer service is like, "So you mean it wasn't working?" No, but I got it to work. Johnny Caldwell watching top 35 calls by Jim. Really miss his calls. Oh yeah, and yeah, no kidding. And it's not just Jim now. It's well.
All right, how about let's pick a soundboard sound to reflect your feelings about the current technical situation in customer service and instructions.
Well, that's I tell you what it's making me want to do is
smoke weed every day.
But there he goes. He was ready. Well, when I first started turning it on,
come on, man.
And I figured I needed to. I figured, yeah. But I was going to fix it.
I don't have facts to back this up.
Right. So anyway. All right, so I had one and I lost it. Oh well. I was gonna click. Oh man. Oh well. This is not what you call the finest entertainment. I don't know where it went. Well, anyway, I was gonna click. I must break you, but I can do that just as well as. All right. Well, anyway, we have a little while here to talk. Let's see. Oh no, that's old. I'm sorry. I was looking at. Well, yeah, we're gonna get into chances against Bama in just a second. And well, that's the more the merrier. We'll take all comers. All right. So let me just add a new banner right quick. There we go.
Nice. Very nice.
All right. So I've been at Costco. Hey, what's up? Says Torre. Very good. I've been at Costco buying a turkey. What have you been doing?
Working around the house, doing stuff. Nothing exciting. Normal.
Just a Sunday.
Yeah.
But It's the Sunday before the Iron Bowl. So I wanted to see, you have any thoughts about how we looked against Samford in the rain? I'm not sure how much you can really take from that game since A, it was Samford, and B, it was in the rain.
No,
yeah. And then we'll see a little bit about the Iron Bowl. Obviously, our Monday night podcast tomorrow night, we'll go way more in depth on the Iron Bowl and all that. Also, tell Ray this is John wearing a Virginia Tech shirt. Well, tell them why you're wearing a Virginia Tech shirt, because I know why.
My oldest daughter graduated from Virginia Tech, and I've given them an enormous amount of money and gone to a number of their games over the years. So yes, it's not some kind of disloyalty thing. I'm more Auburn apparel than anyone I know probably, and bought some more shirts last weekend, but I am wearing the Virginia Tech shirt today. So.
It's funny, instead of the soundboard on here,
I knew this was going to be an issue. I almost went and changed. I was like, people can handle it.
Those listening on the audio, I just put up a banner that says "Scandal Rocks AU Wishbone." But Josh says he sat through the Samford game. Well, bless you and keep you, my son. Very good.
I salute you. All the fans who sat through the game in the rain. It looked miserable. The kind of a cold. It wasn't like that warm August, September kind of rain, kind of like the West Virginia game. This was a much colder rain, and it was pouring in the first half. It really looked like it. And
yeah, it did.
So the biggest thing was I felt for the fans who came out and supported the team and sat through that. I don't think you could take a lot away from it. I mean, to me, the biggest thing is I always watch. I'm really interested in the second half to see like the young guys playing and who out of that looks like they're really playing well and looking good. And I saw some of that and I was excited about it. But in terms of what came out of that game that makes a difference going forward, the only thing was Sherwood getting the targeting injection and missed the first half of the Alabama game. That was really the only thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to just say one thing about that it's awesome that some folks did sit through it. And even more so dedication wise, because the infamous West Virginia rain game, that was still a big game against West Virginia with the outcome in doubt until the end. Whereas this is a game that you could no discredit to anybody that said, look, we're up, 30-0 or whatever, and it's Samford, I'm going home. I don't want to get pneumonia before the Iron Bowl. So let me catch up here. Josh said, John has jumped off the bus. Well, we've been talking about that very issue, haven't we? And we're going to do a show about that. Appleton. That was pretty cool that the kid gets to go out there and play quarterback a little bit against Samford. And didn't he go like 2 for 2 passing?
Yeah.
I think he was 2 for 2.
Well, and we got to talk about your guy too.
Which guy?
Court.
Oh, Colt Sebring, man.
Colt Sebring. He looked like Dick Marshall out there.
He did. Yeah, I loved how his first play. I guess we need a dress code for John. Johnny Caldwell says his first play. This is backwards for me. I'm wearing, because I was at Costco. I'm wearing my Space 1999 Moonbase Alpha astronaut thing. So
okay, but let's not give Vanity crap for wearing a Space 1999 shirt. They're going to get me crap for in Virginia Tech.
Because Auburn doesn't ever play Moonbase Alpha, my friend. But I'm sorry, it's hard to. I'm juggling too many.
You were talking about your guy Colt Sebring.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Colt went out there, and I loved how on his first play he ran like 60 yards, and he said I was gassed after that, and so every other thing he did in that game was after running like a 60-yard wind sprint. So he was just. It's like, why couldn't that have been his last play rather than his first? Man, can you imagine? Imagine you get to go into a Division I football game, and on the very first play, you have to run like the length of the field and then come back and then run the offense.
Well, it was
So,
called back too, wasn't it? I mean,
yeah. So it
but,
didn't even
that's
matter.
the worst part is that he
Oh
ran
yeah.
all that way and didn't get the yardage. So.
It's like if Gus said, Colt, I'm going to put you in on the next possession, but first go outside the stadium and just take a lap
Yeah,
around the stadium.
run some wind sprints.
Yeah, and then come back in, and we will. Oh, Torre says quarterback controversy during Iron Bowl week as Gus lost control. I love the fact that he was our fourth string quarterback until fairly recently. Right? I mean, Malik Willis and Bo and Gatewood, and then him. So now he's our backup. So yeah, Josh says start the petition to have him. I guess made the starting quarterback. Well, we'll see. I'm glad to know that he actually seems somewhat capable, because you don't want to have one capable quarterback going into the Iron Bowl against Alabama. That, you know what I mean? You need to feel like the person that comes in won't throw up over them on themselves and get in the field position. They can actually at least hand the ball off and not fumble, and can run a little bit, So that was encouraging, I thought, at least. So so we talked a little bit about Samford, and I thought they actually kind of showed more of the playbook in this game than I expected them to show. They did a lot of – I expected it to look like A-Day out there, and it did not. I mean, they were running some fairly complicated plays.
Well, again, I think they were trying to get a little bit of practice against live competition and not showing too much, but also running things they want to run against people who you don't know what they're going to do, and trying to execute in bad weather and that kind of stuff. And so I think there was some of that. Of course, they ran the 4th and 2 play that we failed on last week. They ran it in the game to big success. And I think everybody at that point was like, oh, really? Thank you. That was just like a knife kind of.
Yeah. Oh, okay. A couple. Let's see. Torre says he's number 24 for how many grandkids he has. I did say that his grandkids would be very excited about this. And Josh says, how bad will missing Damian Sherwood hurt the defense? By the way, I got to point out that I did not turn the separate audio recorder on for this. So unless I can figure out a way to rip the audio from it, and I can probably do that, it would just be a pain now. We may not have a audio version of this show later this week, but we'll see. I might find a way to do it. So how bad will missing Sherwood hurt the defense?
Not the end of the world, but I mean, he was playing really well the last month. I mean, I think he's come on, and honestly, I feel about the safeties going into next year like I felt about the linebackers going into this year, where we were losing Deshaun Davis and those other guys, and we had all these young guys, but they've actually played really well. And I think it's the same thing with Sherwood and Smoke Monday and the other young guys who got that we're going to be fine at safety long term. So I think it does hurt, and especially against a team like Alabama that wants to play, 4 wide receivers a good bit. We got to have more defensive backs on the field and instead of fewer. So I think it hurts a little bit. We're going to, need him for depth in the second half for sure. And I think he's a sure tackler and does a good job of that stuff. So I don't think it's the end of the world, but I think, when they're going 4 or 5 wide for extended periods of time, then they're gonna miss him on some. That's what I'm saying. He tackles well. I mean, and that's a big thing in this game.
Well, he tackled well against Samford, and that's part of the problem, because he did not, in any which form, fashion, target.
No, that was
hitting somebody with your face mask in their chest is not targeting. I'm not sure where they even got that from. And Josh said that about he stops wide receiver screens. Johnny Caldwell asked, do you think we will run the same defensive scheme as we did against LSU? That was like a 3-1-7 type of. Yeah. Start turning into soccer at this point.
It's harder. It's their passing games are different. I mean, I think people think they throw the ball. Both teams throw the ball well. Both teams have good receivers. It's kind of the same, but it's not. LSU throws the ball downfield a lot more than Alabama does. A large percentage of Alabama's passes are within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage or 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I mean, probably 60% of their passes are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. They're either a screen or they're a slant or they're a little, they start out a little parallel to the line of scrimmage and dump it off. And yeah, but so I think that's the big difference between LSU and Alabama. And so I think it creates a different kind of defensive requirement where,
That's what I was
we
thinking.
have to be able to get up and tackle. And the other thing is, I think Alabama, has seen that now. And if we come out in that, they're going to go straight to running the ball. That's
Exactly.
the big thing. I think if we show that, then they will go straight to Najee Harris running the ball right at us. And I think that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah, that was the one thing LSU was actually able to do on us, was because we were playing that very light up front. They were getting their little running back around the edges. They still weren't getting up the middle on us, but he was able to turn the corner a few times and get 5, 6, 7 or more yards like off tackle. And I didn't at the time realize why that was happening, but now I realize it's because we only had one linebacker in there, and if he doesn't, if he's not in the right place,
and only 3 defensive linemen, so that the edge was easier to get. So
exactly, yeah. So, although overall it did work. How similar? I mean, like you say, I think Alabama and I was going to say how similar are their offenses, except that theirs is different now because the quarterback's different. And again, we'll talk about this in a lot more detail tomorrow night, but just off the top of your head, what does it mean for Auburn that Tua won't be there and it'll be this other guy,
Mac Jones? And it means an enormous amount. Tua is a great player. He is an excellent quarterback. He's incredibly accurate. He has a good arm. He reads the defense well and has good understanding of it. And Mac Jones has sat on the bench for a couple of years, but he's clearly a talented player. He wouldn't be on that roster. But I think Tua is going to be a first-round draft pick. And at one point, they were talking about him as the first overall pick in the NFL draft because he's that kind of quarterback. And Mac Jones is not that guy. So, they still have great players around him at receiver and running back, and their offensive line is good. But so he's going to be more of a distributor and just try and get the ball to the other guys. And Najee Harris is excellent. We're going to have our hands full with him. But I think the biggest thing is, Tua could anticipate what the defense was going to do, and he had great connection with the wide receivers, and he would know, like, if the defense does this is where that receiver is going to be, and I just put the ball there ahead of them even making the move, and they'll be in the right place. And so I think you're going to see some of that because again, Mac Jones played the part of the Tennessee game and part of when Tua was hurt, and then he played last week. And we played Arkansas, and Arkansas is, we know how bad Arkansas is. So I think, those kind of things, I think there's a big drop off. And I think Mac Jones, the toughest team he's played is Arkansas. He played in the second half against Tennessee, and he played poorly, and he was not impressive in that game. So we can talk about that some more tomorrow, I think.
That's true. Yeah. And Josh says Matt can make the throws. We have to put pressure on him. And that's true about just about every quarterback we played, to a degree. But you can't take him for granted. That's kind of what I was getting at is we can't just assume that their offense is going to drop off a cliff without Tua. He, like you say, he's a great player, but they have a lot of other weapons. And if, all this guy has to be able to do is just to get the ball to them, whether it means
that's right,
handing off, passing, short passes, whatever he's comfortable with, because we saw it. Well, it was Western Carolina, I know, but you saw like there was one play where he threw the ball to that receiver like 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, and dude just made the entire Western Carolina defense miss. And that's not going to happen against us, but he can make a couple miss.
No, he can make. And you're right. Like, we have to make him uncomfortable. We got to get in the backfield and disrupt his timing and make the windows smaller where he has to throw the ball. I think we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And can we, with or without Tua, my concern was always, can we score enough?
That's right.
Says William Thrasher. And that's right. That's been the thing all season is that we have to figure out a way to manufacture not just offense, but red zone offense. And I thought it was interesting to get back to the Samford game for a second. I thought it was interesting that we got to see was it Farrar, the receiver?
With Colt Sebring at the end of the game.
But he caught a couple of touchdowns. And again, I know it was like probably Samford's backups, and that's saying something at that point. But hey, I mean, it made me wonder why hasn't he been playing? I guess is it that it was Samford, or why is it that he hasn't been playing more? If he can, if he can catch touchdowns, let's get him out there, man. We need all the help we can get.
I mean, I just think like he's, behind the other guys that we want to play. I mean, I think the passing game revolves around Seth Williams and Schwartz, and to a lesser degree Stove, and I think those are the guys right now, and they're going to get those guys the ball. So I think if Farrar could make it work, he'd be in one of those spots. So.
But the specific reason they brought him in was to address a need that none of the rest of them does. And by the way, I had an interesting exchange on Twitter this week about this, where I was saying that we don't have a deep threat, and people all just started going off on, we don't have a deep threat. We have oh crap.
And I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
But I'm like, well, it's not that I'm ignoring that he exists. It's that the coaches are kind of ignoring that he exists. But don't use him that way.
But also, Anthony Schwartz is a very, very fast player, okay? But he's not a big, tall guy, physical, fast guy also.
Alexander Wright. Alexander Wright.
He is Alexander Wright, exactly. But the thing, with Slay, not Slay, Sammy Coates, and with the guy, what's his name, is with the Giants now. Slayton, they both were taller than Schwartz is, and were physically heavier, and so they were really fast too. But when you're taller than that and you're running straight down the field, and the quarterback's lofting you the ball, you have a better chance to get it away from the defensive back. Schwartz is shorter, and the defensive backs are on the same level as him or bigger than him, and it's easier for them to knock the ball away. So I think that's what it is. I think he can run away from people, and I think we're being 100%. We need him to make plays next week, and we're going to see it. We're going to see him and Seth Williams a ton in that game, because you're right. We got to score points. We're not going to win that game 6-3 or whatever. We got to score touchdowns, and those are the guys who can do it.
Well, Josh asked, where's Matthew Hill and Cedric Jackson? We did see them in the game against Samford, but it's, again, when you start listing our receivers, you got to get like down into 8, 9, 10, 11 to get to those guys, to get to Farrar, to get to Hill, to get to Jackson, other than blocking. Jackson's a good blocker. We've got so many receivers that seem to be higher up on the go in the game list. Yeah. I mean, there's J.J. Wilson at sort of H-back tight end. There's Salmonella. There's the Shanker. I mean, there's so many other. There's Wee Willie. Yeah. There's so many other people playing receiver that get in the game before Hill and Jackson. They do need to be on milk carton.
I mean, I think Cedric Jackson has played a good bit. We just, until last week, we hadn't thrown him the ball. Mm-hmm. Or 2 weeks ago, then we had one big attempt to throw him the ball in the Georgia game.
Mm-hmm. And one big close off his finger. Wasn't off his fingertips in this one? Yeah.
So.
See, Rusty says, I don't know if this has been mentioned, but was that third touchdown yesterday to Joyner the same play didn't work against Georgia?
Yes.
I think it was.
100%.
In his press conference, Gus said something to the effect of it was more like a different play where Joyner fell down earlier in the year. But it's close enough, right?
It wasn't the exact same formation they were lined up in when they ran it. But I think it was – I mean, it's the same kind of thing where Joyner's lined up and he's running it. The route wasn't exactly the same, or at least he ran it differently than he did during the Georgia game. So,
well, the idea of that is you catch the defense in man coverage and then you pop him out late and hope nobody's on him.
That's right.
And that's how it works. So.
And I thought the other thing was, with pouring rain, the offense didn't turn the ball over, and that was a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the fact that we didn't turn the ball over is amazing. I didn't even realize that till you said it. But now that you say it, I'm like, well, yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And even, what did you think about – because, again, we're probably not going to talk much about the Samford game on our main show Monday, so we might as well go through a few more things here.
The other thing is, I think just like the team as a whole, and especially – but if the team as a whole showed up to play. Sometimes with these – it's a week after the Georgia game. We're playing Stanford. It's a week before Alabama. There's like the team just kind of mails it in and shows up, and you know what I'm saying? And you end up with these games where the team plays better than they think you think they would. And in this case, especially the defense, 100% showed up and said, no, we're not giving them anything. 0. And they had like Stanford had 3 turnovers and 35 total yards in the first half.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So,
well, that's 35 yards is 33 more than Georgia had in the fourth quarter against us.
It's true. But I think the defense came in that game and said, we're going to keep playing at that level and just, snuff everything. And they did.
Josh says, just got alerted by CBS. Bama is favored by 3. That's fine with me. That's that means they should want a neutral field win by 6 and a 3-point home field plus 3 more. I don't know about that. I feel like we ought to be favored in this game. Am I crazy?
Well, and Alabama has played one team like in the top 30 in the country, and they lost to that team at home. The next best team they played is A&M. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I don't have a problem with it. I think, if Tua was in the game, it'd probably be 8 or 9 or something like that. So I think it's good. Like, let him be favored and put in the bulletin board and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that doesn't bother me.
Oh, yeah. They're coming into your house and they are favored even without their star quarterback. I mean, well, we played LSU closer in Baton Rouge than Alabama played LSU in Tuscaloosa. That gives me, I mean, I know there's not a lot of, but, common opponent type thing. Well, here's a quote. Torre says, Alan Green's vote of confidence in Gus. I must have missed something. Something meaningful. AD speak.
I haven't seen that today, but yeah.
AD speak. This is hard. I'm trying to.
No, I see it, but I mean, I didn't read what Alan Green said, and I think, again, I think here's the best case scenario. Let's go beat the freaking Alabama. We can knock them out of any possible playoff contention. And then a lot of this coaching stuff, I think it goes away for a little while. So I think let's go do that. And it's going to help us get to a better bowl game. We can, really ruin our rival's season. It's to be at home in front of the fans who deserve a good win over a good team at home. Let's do it. So
they haven't had a more than one loss season in a long time. 2010, right? That's crazy. It seems crazy to say that, but I think it was 2010. I wanted to add, one more about Bama. I want to ask you about a couple other games. If we lose Bama, we lose the bowl. So Saban's too. Yeah, I know that's something been on my mind. That's something that's been on my mind. If we lose to Alabama, we're guaranteed to lose our bowl game.
So you're saying like rush out and bet on our bowl opponent if that happens?
Oh, it's a lock. It's not just the lock of the week.
My cold, dead hands.
Lock of the week.
There it is. So, okay, he says it was on Friday. I'm going to ask you, did you see the Oregon game?
I did. I watched all the second half of it pretty much.
I watched the 12-minute highlights on YouTube this morning because I forgot it was on. I turned on what I thought was Pac-12 action, and it was it was Washington and Colorado, and I got bored and turned it off. Somehow I missed Oregon playing, but Oregon lost by 3. And I just want to say, by the way, out in the Pac-12, that kind of game happens all the time. In the SEC, it seems to follow the pecking order a little more normally. In other words, let me transpose it. If the SEC were the Pac-12, okay, if the SEC were the Pac-12, then Alabama would lose every year to either Kentucky or Tennessee or Mississippi State. And LSU would lose, or Georgia would lose every year to Vanderbilt or Ole Miss. You see what I'm saying? It's like this kind of game happens in the Pac-12 all the time. Doesn't happen so much in our conference. Now, here was the thing. Oregon lost by 3 to Arizona State. That means that Arizona State's touchdowns decided the game. Well, the second Arizona State touchdown was less of a catch than Seth Williams' catch that was called not a catch. Arizona State's second catch, he caught the ball at the back of the end zone and was like bumbling around with it as his feet were on the ground. And it wasn't until he was completely out of the end zone, standing out of bounds, that you actually see his hands on the ball. And they reviewed it and called it a touchdown. So before we all get in our high horse that, Auburn's accomplishment beating Oregon wasn't so great, just, because they're a 2-loss team, we'll just note that if a couple of reviews had gone the other way, Oregon would still have only lost to us, and we might have gone down and taken that Georgia game to overtime or beaten them on a two-point conversion right then.
No.
That's how close. That's how close it is. So I just hate these big sweeping pronouncements. Oh, Auburn is clearly not as good as blank. Oregon is clearly not whatever. Well, there's no clearly to it because it's this fine. And I've said before, this season is our bizarro 2013, right? In 2013, the ball bounced into our hands every time. This year, it's not so much that as the replays are going against us every time. So I feel like this is bizarro 2013.
That's fair. Again, I mean, Oregon went on the road and played a pretty cruddy first half, and the second half they came back. But I mean, Arizona State has a really good young quarterback and good receivers, good running back, and they made some good plays down the stretch to win the game. And Oregon is still going to play Utah for the Pac-12 championship in 2 weeks. And if they win it, they'll win that conference and go to the Rose Bowl. And I think there's a decent chance they do that. So I think, the fact that they lost this game and they're not going to be in the playoff, it's bad for them. But I don't think it has any huge difference in terms of how Auburn should be viewed.
Just imagine if Auburn were told, okay, well, you lost an out-of-conference game at the beginning of the year and you lost to Kentucky. But if you go and beat Missouri in Atlanta, you get to go to the Rose Bowl. That's what it's like. That's what life is like in the Pac-12.
Yeah, it's different.
So, yeah, I like Tore says the Pac-12 hadn't figured out they need to tell their refs to protect the bell cow. Yeah, we know all about that in our conference. And then, of course, Johnny Caldwell says, sounds like we need to hire Pac-12 officials. No kidding.
No, I want some of those Big Ten refs because I've been watching some Big Ten games this year, and he's right about the reviews, but I've been watching the Big Ten games this year, and they call holding in that league. And that's the reason that Chase Young guy for Ohio State is terrorizing everybody. They don't let other teams hold him. And so when teams try to block him one-on-one, he abuses them. So I just feel like if we played the same, the refs called the game the same way they do with those Big Ten teams, then Derek Brown would be destroying people. But it doesn't happen that way in the SEC. Yeah. So that's part of the difference of perception.
Just imagine Derek Brown's stats and performance if they were not allowed to hold him the way they do.
Yeah.
It's just astonishing to think about. So, all right, let's do our last couple of minutes here. Since we got started late, I wanted to go a little bit over 10 to 2 o'clock, but just a couple of minutes. Is there anything else? We retired our Eagle, War Eagle 7, I think, right? And we got a new Eagle. And the basketball team plays Friday, I think. They were off for no. When do they play again? Monday?
They play in New York in this tournament.
I think maybe they play tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Monday night. I think they play Monday night because they're in a tournament. It's been a while. They were playing like every 2 or 3 days, it seemed like, and now they're in so they had to have a little tournament. I think they actually, if they win on the first night, they might actually get Wisconsin.
Yeah, or Richmond. They play tomorrow night against New Mexico, and I think it's 9:30 Eastern time. So,
yeesh. Yeah. You enjoy that out there on the East Coast now. That sounds to me like we're the second game.
Yeah, we must be a doubleheader kind of thing with the late game, which I'm not delighted about.
No, at least they get a little hour longer. Yeah, somebody just said, how many sacks does Derek Brown have? Josh Corbett says, how many sacks would Derek Brown have if holding was called? Oh, God. I mean, just even think about it. Yeah.
It would be Dick Fairley-esque. So,
yeah. And, yeah, Toe says the Chase Young gets the call because he's on Ohio State. We kind of got the idea now. That's
it's
right.
some of that, but I think some of it is the Big Ten calls holding more than the SEC does. The penalty I've seen called in more games there than SEC games. So.
Mm-hmm. Anything else of note going on? I mean, we got we did make it through. We did.
Sanford Hate Week 2019.
I think it was the weather that was mostly being hated on. So I guess that's pretty much it. Just wanted to have a little chat and see where things stand.
Yeah. This is I want to do a quick poll of you and other people on here. The current prediction for Auburn is we're going to go to like the Citrus Bowl.
That's what I keep hearing. Yeah, probably.
So out of these Big Ten teams, which one would you want to play? I'm going to give you some choices, okay? And you get to Vegas respond to people in the text chat. I want you to respond also. So your choices are Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, or Penn State. Of those 4 teams, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State. Now the idea is like Ohio State's going to go to the playoff. One of those other three teams is going to go to the Rose Bowl. The other 2 will be in bowls.
You did 4.
Yeah, I did 4. So Ohio State is not included because they're going to be in the playoff. One of those 4 will be in the Rose Bowl, and the other 3 will be candidates for us. So Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State. Who do you want to play?
Let me do this by process of elimination first, because I don't want to play Wisconsin, period, done, end of story. So go ahead and remove them. We've played them like every other year. It's like you'd think there was a 3-team conference we're in: Auburn, Wisconsin, and Clemson. Right? The Auburn, Wisconsin, Clemson league, I'm so tired of it. Okay. Terry says, can I choose none of the above? And Josh says Minnesota. Well, except that Minnesota is exciting this year, but A, they're pretty good, and B, you don't really get a lot of credit for beating them. So that leaves me Michigan or Penn State, and I think Penn State, Penn State, we're going to play them soon anyway, and they seem pretty good to me. I'm going to say Michigan.
I think Michigan too. I think, again, I want nothing to do with Wisconsin. I would no part of that again. And Minnesota is the team, like you said, like if playing a top level SEC team is going to be their Super Bowl, and they're going to come out fired up like all creation, and Auburn's going to be like Minnesota. So I think Michigan is the right amount of they're good and they're a big name, but I think they're very beatable. I think our defense would eat them up. So
I think that's the combination we want: is a big name, prestige for us when we beat them, but not as big of a challenge as a team that's less prestigious that we have a harder time beating. That's what you don't want, right?
That's Minnesota.
Yeah, the thing you don't want in any out of conference college football, the thing you don't want is to play a team with no reputation that's really good. The best thing you can do, the next best thing you can do is play a team with a big reputation that's not any good, because then it still looks like you beat somebody. And the best thing you can do is play a team with a big reputation that is really good and still beat them in a meaningful game. Okay, so if we can't play, so in other words, if I had to play Michigan, I'd want them to be undefeated, us to be undefeated, and it'd be the playoffs. Failing that, I want to play them in a decent bowl game when they're not that good. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see, a couple last comments here. Torre says Minnesota has several awesome receivers. Hard for us to stop. Yeah.
Minnesota's good. They have good talent.
Let's see. Going to our first Iron Bowl. Any tips? Be safe, man. Be careful. Well, you're in Auburn, so it shouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, no, you'll be fine. It's on campus. I mean, I would say, rest up, save the voice, be ready to yell from the minute, the team comes onto the field. And every time we're on defense, you need to stand up yelling and clapping. and support our defense. There's going to be a lot of Alabama fans in that stadium. There's going to be some of the, the people near you have sold their tickets to Alabama fans, which is a problem. That we, if you can't go to the game, sell your ticket to Auburn fans, not to Alabama fans. It's an issue.
I'm kidding.
If
you're in the stadium, you can actually make a difference.
Yes.
So you need to do that. If you're going to be in the stadium, and I say this knowing that I hadn't had much of a voice and couldn't really yell much against Georgia, but I wanted to, and I was clapping as hard as I could. And by the way, I've always had this issue. Shaking your shaker doesn't accomplish a lot when you're trying to disrupt the defense. Nah. You're going to really disrupt that quarterback with that ferocious noise. That doesn't do a lot. You got to be going, in fact, Willie that we were sitting with that my wife and daughter and I were sitting with, he had like a little megaphone. I'm like, dang, man, he's ready to make a difference in this game. So
no, if your voice is gone, I'm a big clapper. I mean, I'm a big. Yeah. I had calluses on my hands after the game because I'm a big. Just like you can keep clapping the whole game and be loud when the other team's offense is on the field. You need to be as loud as you can, and then take it easy other times. I think rest when we're on offense and support the offense and make a good play, but don't we just got to be quiet and.
Know where the bathrooms are. Know where the restrooms are. I mean, and outside the stadium too. There are places around campus like Haley Center that you can go and use the restroom. So, I mean, if it's like maybe you've been on campus before and just not to the Iron Bowl, so that's a different thing. But yeah.
And the other thing that we could talk about this tomorrow some too is the difference between the Alabama rivalry and the other rivalries is the stakes in the game. Yeah. The Georgia game, and I interviewed David Housel last week when we were there for the live, 2 weeks ago when I was there for the live show. We're going to use that some other stuff, but he said this, something that we've said before too, which is the Georgia game is about winning. The Alabama game is about the fear of losing.
Yeah.
And so I think whichever team is behind, there's real fear in that stadium.
It is. Oh gosh.
You do not want to lose to those other fans, to that team.
I said I was, in the late in the first half of the comeback, the 2010 Iron Bowl, I'm like Googling most painless ways to kill yourself, basically. I didn't even want to face the world. So Josh asked, are we thinking of ever doing a live basketball show from Auburn? The only thing about it is it's enormously expensive to do these, to transport John, me, and Elvis all to Auburn at the same time over a period of days and do all the other technical stuff that's required and actually get into the venue because we have to pay. We're not considered, like AL.com people that they just let in. And so, thank goodness for the patrons or we wouldn't be able to do them at all. But it's going to be a few months before I even can replenish all the money that was spent getting us down there for the football show. I would love to do one, and maybe in the future, but for now, I don't think it's feasible.
But the basketball team's going to continue to have success for a long time, so I like the idea. I think it could be fun. It'd be different.
Yeah, we could do it instead of a football show or something one year, something like that.
Or again, other. I don't know. Think about it.
We'll just have to find a cheaper way to do it. Is all. Let's see. Torre, in an emergency, any cars with Bama paraphernalia can be used as bathrooms. That's fair. That's fair enough. Okay. Hadn't been to Zach Callahan that was asking about it. Hasn't been to a game in almost 10 years. Well, yeah.
Enjoy every moment.
Absolutely. But yeah, go around campus a little bit. Parking is difficult. We had to park to go to the Georgia game. We got there hours before kickoff, driving down from where we were staying in Sylacauga. And my wife and daughter and I had to park at the far end of the fraternity row down past the intramural fields and walk quite a ways. And we still had to pay to park in their parking lot. At least they let us use their restroom. Though how much using a frat house restroom appeals to you is another question entirely. And then Josh points out we need credentials. I'm like, well, yeah. The thing is, as professional as we are, we're not actually professionals.
The other thing I would say to Zach is you haven't been to a home game in 10 years. Get in your seats plenty of time early before the game. There's, security, there's metal detectors, they check your bags and all that kind of stuff. So if your wife or somebody's coming, you got to, have clear small purses and that kind of stuff. But then also it takes longer to get in, but be in your seats a good 40 minutes before kickoff.
Mhm.
Because there's going to be pregame stuff, and then you got the Eagle flight and the band and all that kind of stuff. And that happens all well before kickoff. So give yourself plenty of time to get there.
What we did was we went to the Tiger Walk outside the stadium 2 hours before
That's
kickoff.
2 hours before kickoff. So if you want to go Tiger Walk again,
As soon as that was over, we went down to where the band does they come to an intersection and they play. As soon as that was over, right up in line to get in the stadium. And pretty much as soon as we were boom. And as soon as we sat down, the band was coming out onto the field, coming out of the tunnel. So you can do it, but you can't waste time. You got to go, we're going to do this. Okay, now go do this. Now go do this. Because it's different than it used to be. Everything takes longer. And parking is harder. Finding restrooms is harder. Getting into the stadium. So,
but the biggest difference from 10 years ago is the video screen thing.
Yeah, the giant. Yeah, so. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. Like I say, I'll try to figure out a way to get the audio up later in the week if I can. I should have clicked the little button, but with we had a lot of issues. Those of you watching from the beginning, we've had a lot of technical problems here, thanks to YouTube being insane. Yeah, that's pretty much. I thought I had. That's not the one I wanted.
I apologize for creating a scandal that's rocking a Wishbone by wearing the Virginia Tech shirt on this podcast today. I'll try not to do that in the future.
All right, John. Well, we will talk to you tomorrow night for our big pre-Iron Bowl show. So, War Eagle, John.
War Eagle, man.